Follow the crowd, stick to the rules, color within the lines. These phrases are commonplace in most of our lives, but we at WeVolve speak a different language. We say, strike these out and break the glass ceiling. We bring to you the WeVolve podcast with stories of what gender implies to people from various walks of life. We tell stories of strength, empowerment, of the LGBTQIA plus community and sex education. Today, we are interacting with Team WeVolve together, who has been working relentlessly behind the scenes. We're a group of feminists working towards making impactful change leading to true empowerment. Hi, my name is Anjali. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the founder of WeVolve Together. I'm tired of being told to behave like a good girl and sit like a lady.
Hi, I'm Samiran and my pronouns are she and her. I'm considered too thin to be true. Some of my body parts are bulging out like they're supposed to do, and I'm waiting for the day people realize body shaming thin people is a horrible thing to do.
Hi, I'm Adya and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm just tired of being told that people of the opposite gender can't just be friends.
Hi, I'm Kumudini and my preferred pronouns are she and her. And I'm tired of being told to stay out of political discussions and tired of being told that your opinions are invalid solely because of my gender.
Hi, I'm Sonakshi and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm tired of being asked to wear a jacket every time I wear a tank top.
Hi, I'm Arshi, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm tired of being told that I have to have long hair and wear makeup and be feminine for the sake of the male gaze.
Hi, my name is Noyonika. I go by she, her, and I'm tired of being told that I can't crack my knuckles because it's not ladylike.
Hi everyone, my name is Sneh. My preferred pronouns are she and her, and I'm tired of being told that the only good thing about me is my figure.
Hi, I'm Flora. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm tired of hearing that I played too many sports for a girl.
Hi, I'm Mannat. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm tired of being told I'm just being paranoid when I feel unsafe to walk on the streets alone.
Hi, I'm Shania. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm tired of not being able to wear whatever I want to.
Hi, I'm Marini, and my pronouns are she and her. In one sentence, I am tired of the patriarchy.
All right. So, after hearing some insights into our personal lives, I would like to ask all of us here now, how do you think casual sexism is propagated in your environment on a daily basis? Sneh?
I think casual sexism has been propagated in my community to the smallest of actions, and it starts at home of being said that I need to do something because I'm a girl and not do something because I'm not a girl, and I should be restricted to certain environments or certain levels just because of my gender. So it starts at home.
Absolutely. Mannat?
I think casual sexism is so common and deep-rooted these days that sometimes you can't even tell. Like, especially in like many schools in India, I would say that how you're considered to be a good girl if your hair is tied and it's braided and that your skirt length is proper, how that's what the definition of a good girl is.
Absolutely. And I think just to add to that, I think that there are way more dress codes for girls than there are for boys in school. And there is no identification of the non-binary whatsoever. And you can never be someone who is, wearing a girl's uniform with, say, chaps. And, I think we were having a conversation the other day in one of our team meetings, and we were talking about how people should be given the option whether they want to wear the skirt or whether they want to wear the pants. And I think that really needs to change. Yeah, Snakshi.
Yeah, so there's also one thing which like I think we've all seen, like, if there's a family function and someone's just had a kid and they go without the kid, it's always the mom who's asked that who's looking after the kid. I've never seen anyone ask the father that who's looking after the kid.
Oh my God, that is so true. So, Miran,
I mean, I agree with each and everything that we just said, and especially the fact that why I just question myself that why am I always told to have a smile on my face regardless whatsoever my mood is, and why am I always told to just be upright and be like that, have that perfect posture just because I'm a girl? I mean, why can't I just sit like I want to, just do whatever I want to? I mean, why are there so many restrictions just on me and not on my brother?
absolutely. Again, coming back to how you're supposed to sit like a lady all the time. Yeah. No, Anika.
Even for something like gifts, we automatically gravitate towards the pink wrapping paper for girls and blue for the boys. And that's just so sad.
Very true. Kodini?
I think one thing I've noticed is that whenever there's a function or any kind of dinner, the male member gets the food first, gets served the food first. And even in restaurants, the menu is given to the male member who is sitting, even if they are younger than them, than the female member, they get the menu. So I think that's one of the things that I have noticed.
All right. Just to add again, always whenever like the bill comes, it's passed to like the male on the table, no matter what. Usual cases. Yeah. Arshi?
All right, so I have a little anecdote. So basically, my aunt was learning to drive, and she was saying that on the road, many men used to like look at her very weirdly. Like they couldn't even conceive the fact that women can drive as well. Women can also be behind a wheel. So I believe in that case, sexism is still present, especially casual sexism.
Absolutely. Again, to add to that, it is said that majority of the cars are made according to that the force that is applied by the male body, and they're not made to suit women. And secondly, it's just assumed that women are bad drivers, which is so messed up. Flora.
Further on, elaborating on what Sonakshi said, just a little more deeper, in case of an abortion, I'm so sorry, in case of an abortion, it is always the woman who is blamed for not having feelings for the baby that's inside her, and not the man who is equally at fault or mistake whatever that's happened. So I think there's casual sexism there as well.
Absolutely. You've brought out a very pertinent aspect. Shania?
Yeah, so this is like a very, very small thing, but like Kinder Joy always has two different colors. Like one is specifically blue for boys, and one is specifically for girls in pink. And I have always somehow like I was never into all of these girly things like dresses and all of that, like all of those kind of toys. So I always took the boy one because they had like cars and stuff, and I like that more than the pink ones. So I was always told ki why you're a girl, why aren't you taking the pink one instead of the blue one?
Absolutely. So just being like gendered and everything around you being gendered all the time. Adya?
So something that really disturbs me is that whenever there's a religious ceremony, it's always like a girl has to be accompanied by the man of the house to take part in the ceremony. She can't take part alone.
Absolutely. I think it's also embedded in the religious ceremonies and etc. that take place about how a certain thing has to be held by the man and the woman has to follow, and all of those aspects. Like I recently did a project about like just Hindu marriage and its patriarchal aspects, and I was so shocked to hear about how one of the most pure and considered to be one of the most pure practices in the marriage being so driven by patriarchy, and it's so stark and it's being followed till date, and these practices aren't changing, which is extremely shocking. And I really think that with time, people are going to stop practicing these things even more. Yeah. Varani?
So, growing up in a joint family, I've seen this a lot. So we are three brothers and three sisters along with cousins. So the brothers have had literally people appointed to them so that they learn different sports, and they are sent to cycle at like 5 a.m. or something. And all of our sisters were never even given that option. And we were just it was not something that came to our mind that we could do it. And one of my brothers, as a kid, liked to dance, but today he says that he hates it simply because he was never put in dance, being told that it's something only girls do.
Right. Sneh?
Right. So when we're talking about all our experiences, I just want to bring up like one point that I thought of. I don't know if others have faced this or not, but I personally feel that casual sexism is often propagated under the cover of being independent. And I feel that happens deliberately and sometimes subconsciously, but it happens, wherein that's happened to me as well. Like when I said, it starts at home, I've been told I should learn how to cook. It's not because one's discriminating against me based on my gender, because I just need to be independent, but that's never been applicable to my brother or other men in the house. So I feel it's always propagated under the cover of independence.
Agreed. Also, like how the entire workspace is changing, with more empowered women coming across, and trying to change that place and becoming more independent. It is also it's sometimes gendered and deep rooted, but sometimes it actually comes from an aspect of being more independent, but people look at it from a very gendered point of view even today, which is that, especially like over time people say something like, there are just certain roles that have to be played by the woman, like certain, like for example household chores, right? that's just expected to that's expected of the woman. It's not expected of men to, put a helping hand forward. And when they do that, it's like, oh my God, this is such a nice person. No, I mean, that person's just doing their duty and their daily practice, right? Exactly. Samiran.
I just have to put it out there because it's very important. The worst experience I've had as a girl is getting a sanitary pad in a black packet. I mean, why? What am I hiding? Who am I hiding? There's no rabbit or some animal that I'm carrying or a baby I'm carrying in a packet. It's just something I use for sanitation purposes and to keep my personal hygiene up to the thing. I mean, I don't get, and I mean, as a person, once when I was given the sanitary pad in a black packet by a chemist, a very well-known chemist of Kolkata, I took the packet and I threw it on his table and I left. So I think everyone should do that.
Proud of you, proud of you. I've actually been told not to carry the sanitary napkin across the hall if like there are any men sitting. And I deliberately did that because I was like, no, I'm not like gonna hide it. It's supposed to be normal. Anyone else can unmute and go ahead if they have anything very pertinent to say. Absolutely.
I would like to say another thing, which is
Sonakshi followed by Mannat.
so it's like we see this everywhere. It's like when two people get married, it's always the woman who has to take the man's surname, and the woman has to move to the man's house. Like, I mean, the moving part is changing, but then still we have a long way to go.
Definitely. Mannat?
Yes, I think continuing what Sneh said, since I was younger, I've always enjoyed cooking and baking, and it was always something that I enjoyed as a hobby. And a couple of times I've been told, like, good, when you're older, you can cook for your in-laws and your husband. Like, no, I'm cooking for myself. Why can't they do it themselves? Like, it's a hobby as like a young child that I enjoyed, but even from then, it's situated to be that when I'm older, I can cook for my husband.
Yeah, a really messed up concept. And it's actually going to lead to like our second question that we're going to talk about now. No, Anika. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so in interviews, when women who have kids, they are often asked this question: how do you manage your work life with your family life? but not once are men asked this question. And also, like whenever we go over to a relative's place, or like a friend's house, a common question I've been asked is, what does your father do? Like that is just accepted as a normal way of making conversation, because like they are answerable, how do you take care of your family, but they're surprised if the women of the family have a job. So yeah.
That's so true. I mean, I've never thought of it like that, but like, yeah, a lot of the incidences that each one of you spoke about makes me like look back and question a lot of things I've heard over time. I think I can like see everyone nods. So yeah. All right. So our next question and like point of discussion is about the queer community and its acceptance in our society. Now, when majority of us were speaking, we were all talking in terms of binaries. So how much do you think it's been accepted? How much do you think, like just your views in general about the queer community and their acceptance, and how do you think people still view them? All right, we start with Shania.
Yeah, so right now, like we were discussing about casual sexism. So that time, it's like Mannat said that when she was baking, her family members told her how she would be able to cook for a husband. Like that's where it starts. Like they don't ever consider the fact that they can marry a girl as well. It's always just husband. It's not wife.
Yes, and it's also about just gendering the other partner as well. It's about um not identifying the non-binary whatsoever. I think it also starts there. Yeah, Simran.
Recently, one of my friends came out as queer. So she came out quite long back, I think a year or two back, but she came out to more of her friends very recently, a month or two back.
Mhm.
She was very scared until date is, though she's an adult, she's 18 now, she's still very scared to open up to her family, because indirectly when she spoke to them about it, they kind of just said that, why do you want to be, I mean, what is this new trend? Are you going with the flow, or like is it something your friend is doing? They actually asked her to measure her temperature and give her paracetamol for just not being feminine enough. And then just because she considers herself as, as Shania said, that if she had Kinder Joy, she'd choose the boy version because she likes to play with cars. So that's the same way my friend likes to play with cars, so she asks for the same thing. And yet again, her family questions her on why she wants to play with a car rather than playing with dolls. That's how accepting our society is.
Same.
I think to answer the point of discussion, like queer communities, how the acceptance of queer communities, like around me, I would say that it's as as a part of the 21st century, I think, or the current generation, it's there. We recognize that it's okay, but I don't know, this was a point of discussion even at school in one of our life skills classes, and wherein we discussed about this ad that was released by Dabur and how it was taken down because it goes against the rules of our society, and how it should be limited to the binary genders that have been put out, and that's a biological man and a biological woman, and people can't celebrate love being from the same gender. So I feel that acceptance is not there, and when you have that being propagated by a person in a position of authorities, it leads to more damage that will put us on a path where we cannot even achieve it.
Absolutely. You talked about people in authority. Also, the fact that being the younger generation, if you're talking about these ideas, you're told to be naive and you're told to be someone who's not well informed and who's, just again, as Simran mentioned, going with the flow, following the trend. It's not a trend. It's not a flow. It's something we are all trying to identify with, and it's very much real. It's not something that just happens in thin air. And like when I started reading more about gender dysphoria, I was just like, that's literally someone living in someone else's body that they don't want to be in. and it is very much real. Yeah, Manat, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think when we're talking about acceptance, a lot of like Indian families, I would say, they pretend like they accept it, but then if you want to talk about it, they act like it doesn't exist or it's such a hush hush topic. So it makes no sense because they'll act like they do, but in reality they don't, and they will never want to talk about it. And if you do, and if you do come out, it's like you're asking for attention, or like she said, like it's a trend, but in reality it's just who you are, but they refuse to accept that. And personally, for me, if I've ever wanted to talk about these issues or any like gender equality or anything related to the LGBTQ community, it's if something's wrong and I'll say it, they'll be like, you're being too sensitive. And that apparently our generation now is too sensitive to these things, when in reality, it's just that we finally started to speak out about the things that have been going on for years. It's not that it just suddenly started to happen.
Absolutely. And like, the sensitivity aspect reminds you of something completely different, just like mental health problems in general and how they're supposed to like, trigger our sensitive points and we are more sensitive to these things. A very not, like it's not spoken about, people don't pay attention to it. Not going to divert this there, but just want to put this out there. Yes, Nashi, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we've established that, queer people are not really accepted by our society. And I think one of the main reasons is lack of awareness, because I've been told by someone that being transgender is a mental illness. And that is followed by, you should be learning from the correct sources, So, and it's like studies have shown that being queer has nothing to do with your mental health. You can be perfectly fine. I think the mental health is caused by when people don't accept them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Arshi, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Sonakshi. Anyways, what I wanted to say is that, frankly speaking, heterosexism is an ingrained notion in Indian society. They think that since heterosexuality is what is portrayed in the media, it is normalized, and
Right.
it is the only normal thing which should be present. Basically, the LGBTQI community, I believe, is not accepted by people because, number one, it goes against what God wanted, and number two, it goes against a very function of reproduction, of procreation. So I believe that unless we remove these misconceptions that the LGBTQIA plus community is as normal as heterosexuality, and that heterosexuality is just a part of the spectrum of the innumerable sexualities throughout the world, then I believe that concrete change can actually be propagated.
Absolutely. Also, just the fact that what is normal and what is abnormal in our society is, just like the word normal is. I just want each one of us to like think about what is normalized and what is not.
Can I just add to something Arshi said? She said how people say it's not something that God accepts. So, like, I've been told that it's against a Hindu culture traditions, but actually, if you go deep, there have been a lot of instances of gods in this Hindu culture who have been. So, for example, the Agni god himself was married to another male god. And if you look into a lot of paintings and castles, they portray homosexual relationships or something, and that has been removed from all history textbooks or any resources, and that's like 5 of them you can find, but they exist.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, one of those gods is Ardhanarishwar, we call it in Bangla. It's half man and half a woman. It's half Shivji, half Parvati. So that also we completely decide to ignore.
Absolutely. So just a lot of references there which are ignored by history, which is ignored by society today, and people, I think, just live in a bubble of denial a lot of times. Kumudini.
Yes, so I think something that has to really be remodeled and modified is the inherent structure of institutions. Like, for example, there is for girls, for boys in many of the names of institutions. One might not identify as a girl, one might not identify as a boy. Inherently, you're alienating them and making them feeling left out when you're putting for boys, for girls in the name of the institution they study in.
Right.
So I think this is what should be talked about and really looked into and changed, because in the 21st century we cannot be functioning like this.
Absolutely. And I feel like whenever I enter any place, right, especially in India, you have to always select between being a boy or a girl. Like if you go to a shopping mall, right, the washroom is either for male or female. If you go to the clothing section, the clothing is either for male or female. So it's about everything being gender driven. And until very recently, there has not been an inclusion of the non-binary, which you can select as an option when you are filling out a form that is completely legal. So I just feel like we're just surrounded by gender so much that it restricts us to a very large degree. No, Anika.
I think that we are automatically considered to be straight unless and until we come out and identify ourselves as any other with any other sexuality, and the very possibility that we may not be straight is not taken into consideration.
Absolutely. Adya?
So the fact that I really hate is that when somebody comes out, we're like, oh my God, we're so proud of you. But in reality, with some people, it's like the entire viewpoint of the person changes. And whenever they look at them, the first thought that comes to their mind is they are not straight.
Absolutely. And like just being like, I think this is also largely ingrained in us that, we look at people who are not straight differently. Flora?
Coming back to acceptance in the society or somewhere, people are not really, I know people who are not really against it, but as soon as it comes or is known to someone who is their close one, they do not understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a friend of mine came out as queer the last month, and she told her parents about it, and her parents literally said that you're an adolescent and it's just a phase you're going through, and you don't know what's right and what's wrong. You'll grow up and you'll understand.
A very common thing. I think most of us have heard this about someone or ourselves. We'll go very, very quick because you're running out of time. Samiran and Shania, quick.
Yeah, so I'll just add to what Flora said. If I put my opinions up in general about having opinions about anything in general, about feminism itself, then it's considered very stupid. Again, it's a phase that I have that I'm a feminist. But if I don't know anything, if I don't put up an opinion about chaddar kaise fold karte hain, then I'm not a human, then I'm not a girl. I'm just someone who's come from hell or something, just put down to earth.
Oh God. Shania.
I think one of the only positive things that I've heard about acceptance of the queer community is that, again, one of my friends, she came out to her parents, and her parents were very accepting of it. Like, they accepted it. They did not have any weird reactions. And I was I was very glad to hear that, and I was very happy for her also. So I think that is one of the only incidents where I've heard that, like, like your friend is like queer community acceptance.
Absolutely. And that's like a sign of change, which is great. And I'm so
Yeah,
glad that there are people out there who are like this.
yeah, and one more point I wanted to say is that, like, as a kid, my mom used to like ask me that when you grow up, you can marry a girl or a guy you want. Then I was a little like this thinky, people can like girls can marry girls, because I didn't know that as a kid. So I have, at least in my family, queer community has always mostly always been accepted. Like, there haven't been a lot of instances where whenever we've spoken about it, that it hasn't been accepted.
That's great. Kudos. Adya.
So I think we all know that there was this rainbow cover which was really trending right now. So when I tried ordering that, a relative of mine was like, "Are you a part of the LGBTQIA plus community? If you're not, then why are you ordering that cover?" And that's just really messed up.
I mean, you could just be a supporter and like believe in pride and just just support the community, and that's in itself great. Yeah. And I love how inclusive the queer community in itself is. Um, it's there for all of us. Now, coming to our last and final question, which is, have you been given sex education in your life? If you haven't, if you have, that's great, and we can talk about that. If you haven't, then have you had access to resources that can provide you with that, or how did you learn about it over time? And yeah, so just go ahead. All right, Simiran.
I don't have really a lot to say because I have never really gotten the talk. And I don't think we're ever going to get the talk because I think it's too late to be given the talk now. We already know a lot. And if we know a lot, we're asked why we know a lot. So, and I, as a person, got to know about it through different Netflix shows, to be very honest. They opened a door for me to different aspects, to different ways of welcoming people. And then I started researching about what pansexuality is, what sapiosexual is, what in everything in general. And then I actually felt that, okay, might be that I'm actually accepted in the society by some people, if not all.
Absolutely. Also, recently I heard about the module that's being talked to kids nowadays about good touch and bad touch. And that's like kind of begins. But then over time, even like being in class 12, even today, I don't think I have had proper sex education, and whatever I have had has been through resources that are off the internet. That could be a show, that could be a video, that could be an article I read, it could be anything. But like the concept of being given the talk hasn't been there. Flora, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Firstly, I do not understand why is it called the talk and why is it supposed to be so awkward.
Mm-hmm.
We have already considered it a taboo of talking about it by naming it the talk. Even we as people, young generations who support this, we usually name it the talk. And very frankly speaking, I have had this conversation with my parents and I have been given sex education according to my age at different points of time due to some incidents. But yes, I have. And I really do not think it was that awkward for me as we already have it pictured in our mind. And because of this picture in our mind, we are actually afraid to even talk about it.
Talking from personal experience, yes, Flora agreed that it should not be called the talk, would agree. But, I've just seen so much about how people have portrayed it over time. And it's, yes, at first, even I thought it would be really awkward. And when I started to initiate conversation, I realized that there was just a lot of lack of awareness, even on the other side of the table. And when that's the case, you kind of realize that, and after a point, the people who I was having this conversation with, older people I was having this conversation with, they also realized that this generation is going to know on their own, and they will probably know more than us, and that's in a way good. And if they are somehow being educated at the end of the day, that is good enough. And in fact, I heard about this incident where this one parent gave their child a book that was a guide to sex education because they themselves could not give the talk. Okay, they themselves did not have the resources to do it. So they made an effort to go out there and look for something that would make it easier. Steve.
Right. So with regards to like sex education, I feel I was never given the talk or, been told to sit down and, explained all of this. I think because of that, it was sort of normalized to me that it's supposed to not be spoken about loudly or, to people. So when I started to grow up and when I started to like come around people who actually spoke about it properly and were very vocal about it, I had to unlearn this entire practice that was instilled in me that it should be a hush topic. And even when I did unlearn that, I felt like I had to go ahead and find verified sources because a lot of the articles online were not verified, and they were very misleading. So I struggled with that a lot.
All right. Great points brought out there just about like the kind of resources you are accessing, and you should be verified about them and what you are reading as well, because oftentimes it's not verified. Varuni.
So I would not say that I was never provided with any sex education. I was always told when a touch may be inappropriate, and that, I mean, I was told about this in a lot of details, and I'm thankful. But I was never told what when I may be in a relationship, and maybe a few years down the line, we do want to go ahead and get maybe intimate. But that's something I was never told. Instead, I was fed a lot of wrong information in this field about how it may cause infections, or you know how it goes. So that I had to learn from
Sorry, internet is acting up. We will come back to Varuni. Manat?
Yeah, so I think I probably received sex education to an extent, but I don't think it as much as I would have wanted to know, because I think there's a lot that I had to learn by myself. Like people have said, like Netflix or like the internet or whatever was available, and it was made such a taboo topic, especially when we were younger, that like no one wanted to talk about it. And if anyone brought it up, like in schools, if it was mentioned once, everyone would look to each other and be like, why are they talking about this? It's so awkward. But I don't understand why that was there. And I was one of those people, because when we were younger, that's literally how almost all of us have been brought up. And that's just such a sad reality. And I think one thing with sex education is, even today, when we're looking at resources, they rarely ever mention consent. And I think that's such an important part of it. They maybe slightly talk about good touch and bad touch, but the whole aspect of consent and how important it is and what exactly it is isn't really mentioned. And I think that's something that has to be applied in this day and age.
Absolutely. Varuni, back to you. You can finish your sentence.
Yeah, I was just saying that all my resources have been social media activism, and like our page, whenever posts go up, I read them sometimes there as well. And I may not be able to talk about it to some adults or someone, but thankfully, people in our generation are pretty open about it, and have been able to have conversation without getting awkward, and have learned from some people as well. A lot of times they tell me things which I never knew of.
That's great to hear. No, Anika.
Yeah, so I never really received proper sex education per se. However, like I have an elder sister, so whenever I had any kind of questions, I could always turn to her, and in bits and pieces, she has like always told me about certain things that I didn't know. And apart from that, I have just kind of learned the rest by myself from people and internet videos and stuff.
Absolutely. It's great to actually have someone who's older to you kind of guide you through it, because they would always know better. Sonakshi?
Yeah, so I'm pretty fortunate. My parents are pretty open to talking about it. I've never really received the talk, but then I have had conversations with them. But then one thing that happened, I was designing a WeVolve post. It was about, I think, sex and busting myths about sex. And there was this post which said, about talking about sex talk. So someone was like, why don't you just write as birds and bees? That sounds so much better. I don't even know where this came from, this bees and birds thing. And I was like, what? And this other thing also happened to me. So I have this friend, he's in class 8. And he goes, you know what we're learning in bio? I was like, what? The worst chapter in history. I was like, what? He's like, reproduction in humans. So it's like, even if they're interested, they feel the need to show that they are not, because it's such a taboo topic. And they think that, like if they say this is something they find interest in, they'll be considered, I don't know, like a bad person or something like that.
Yeah, I relate to that. Arshi?
So, honestly speaking, I am very fortunate as well, because my father has talked to me about safe sex. But again, the very notion of intercourse has not been introduced to me as such. What I have understood is basically from rap songs. So, what I want to say is that rather than gaining information from Netflix, rap songs, and so on, we need to actually promote inclusive communication, talking it out. And also regarding the stigma associated with intercourse, we are embarrassed of gaining pleasure apparently. So my question is why, right? Why? That's
This reminds me of like one of our episodes where one of our guests, Karishma, she actually said that, women, because they've been told that their genitals aren't supposed to be, like they are gross and they're not supposed to be touched, etc. They don't take ownership of their pleasure ever. And it's just something that has been propagated over time, over and over and again, over and over again. Yeah, Kumudini.
Yeah, I've personally never got the talk or never actually received adequate sex ed. But again, as many of you said, learned it from Netflix and social media. But I think that comes from a place of extreme privilege also, because a majority of India does not have access to such avenues, right? Let's say they have access to, mainstream Bollywood movies who actually don't portray sexual education or even sex for that matter in a very forward and inclusive way. It's very regressive how many of the Bollywood movies portray. And I think India is the second most overpopulated country. So sex being a taboo is just, hypocrisy and does not make sense.
Absolutely. And like that reminds me of like this entire conversation we were having in my sociology classes. But these were one of the classes in gender, and we spoke about prostitution and trafficking and all of that, and how there are such high rates of that in India. And when there are people openly saying that these conversations aren't important, they are the ones who are actually, responsible for these kind of numbers and these kind of actions and the entire practice of even prostitution being so taboo because of propagation of patriarchy over and over and over again. Sumiran, you had something to say.
I just have to add something to Kumudini Di. So, I really agree that Bollywood needs to up its mark now, because all my life I have believed that a boy is going to come to me and he's not going to ask me anything. There's just going to be flowers all around, violence playing, and a Shah Rukh Khan movie in the background. That is all my imagination till a few years back, obviously. So I think most of the many American shows and many movies, for a fact, on Netflix portray love to be something within all genders and not gender restricted, as to say. But I think Bollywood needs amendments now any day.
Changes coming, but very slowly. Very, very slowly, but it is coming. And just one last bit that I want to add is that there's always this pressure of the proposal to be on the guy, and that idea of love of the approaching, and the guy coming to the girl and all of that. Of course, that is just talking about the binary again. But at the same time, it's also like just so much pressure. Like I've spoken to my guy friends a lot of times, and they've told me that there's just always this pressure on us to like make the first move because the girl won't do that. And if the girl does make the first move, you're like why? Like, why did you do that? Were you like tired of waiting or something? But like, it's okay for either of them to do it. And that's what it is ingrained again. And then it's so deep rooted and it stems from there. But I think with time, with our generation, with more people understanding these concepts, it's changing, which is great. Now we'll play one last game, which is put your finger down. So if you've experienced any of these things, you have to put your finger down. Flora, I need your video back on so that. All right. We will begin. So I'm going to call out situations, and each one of us has to put our finger down if you've experienced it. Okay. I'm also going to participate, so give me 1 second. All right. We'll begin now. So you've been discriminated. So put your finger down if you've been discriminated against because of your gender. Put your finger down if you have been called a male hater because you're a feminist. Put your finger down if you've been told to sit like a lady or sit like a girl. Put your finger down if your clothing has been called inappropriate because of skin show. Put your finger down if you feel unsafe to move out alone. Put your finger down if you've been asked that, is it that time of the month because of your mood? Put your finger down if you've been called too opinionated because you spoke up. Put your finger down if you've been told that you do things to impress someone. Put your finger down if you've experienced or seen a lack of consent. Put your finger down if you've heard the statement, "You are not like other girls." All right, so with that, we come to the end of this episode. I think majority of us just had 2 fingers up at the end and or all gone. So majority of us have experienced at least 8 out of these 10 situations. So with that, we come to the end of this episode. This was very special to me because I finally had my entire team here, which is great. And we got out some things that were extremely personal to us. We discussed extremely important aspects of our society. And I think this is just going to go out there to spread more positivity and tell more people that we can talk about these things openly now. All right. Thank you so much.